Welcome to Intersections. I am so happy today to welcome Mita and Harry Elliott to the set. Mita and Harry are longtime attenders of St. John's Citadel, been part of this community for many, many years, and we're going to learn a little bit more about their faith journey in just a moment or two. Welcome to Intersections. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at your lives before St. John's Citadel. Where were your early years spent, and what was your family of origin, and where were you raised, and what kind of role did the church play back at that time? Let's start, Harry.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Botwood, out in central Newfoundland, and went to the Salvation Army Academy, as it was called then, in my early years. And then I went to the Salvation Army Regional High School in Botwood. Most of the time when I was in my early years, I didn't know if I was in church or in school, quite frankly, because it was so interchangeable. The school was next to the church, and sometimes we'd be at the church and sometimes at the school. But I grew up in the Corps in Botwood and was part of the many activities that young people in the Salvation Army are involved in, the Corps Cadets, the YP Band, the singing company, these kinds of activities. And I was there until I was 17, at which time I left and went to university. And that was my early years.
And so you came from, I don't recall totally, a larger family?
No. I have two brothers. One is a couple of years younger than me, the other one's 10 years younger than me, but there was only three of us,
Just
three boys.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful childhood. I have no regrets on that.
None at all. Good. How about you, Mita?
I came from Grand Bank.
Did you?
I was raised in Grand Bank. I had similar upbringing as Harry because most times I didn't know if I was in school or in church, and as a matter of fact, my grade 8 was done in the junior hall of the Salvation Army Church.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good childhood. I had some difficulties too because at the age of 13 I lost my father.
Mm.
He was on the blue wave.
Mm.
Couple of years after that, I went to live with Major and Mrs. Thompson, and we were in Corner Brook they were there for 3, I was there for 2. And then they came to St. John's, and they wanted me to come with them, and I did.
Wow.
And
well, there's the connection.
there's the connection.
I've always known that there was a connection. I never knew until now what the connection was. And so that's great. That's great. So we've segued to coming to St. John's. And we know now how you did it, and we have a sense that you came here to go to school.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about coming to St. John's, and then hand in hand with that, I think, is coming to St. John's Citadel. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So,
well, let me just quickly describe what happened. And I came to St. John's and to go to university, and went to the temple actually, and spent 4 years at the temple, playing in the temple band.
Yes.
And then, of course, on a particular Saturday, my brother and our friend decided to go to the youth group at the Citadel. I was studying for a mathematics exam for Monday, and I said, I don't have time to go. I just don't have time. But in fact, they convinced me to come to this youth group. So I came to a St. John's Citadel youth group, and Mita was at the youth group. So we met about 200 meters from here in the old Citadel.
Right.
And I don't like the cliche, but the rest is history. So So that's the early years. I came then, of course, I went away for 2 years to Grand Falls to teach. Came back in 1970, and St. John's Citadel became our church.
Right. And over the course of time, you were involved in all kinds of activities here at the Citadel.
Yeah, I was the corps treasurer for 5 years. I was a corps recruiting sergeant. I was the band sergeant. I was with the Scouts, corps cadets leader, and so on. So yeah, I had a lot of involvement over the years with the St. John's Citadel.
Mita, let's find out about you in St. John's Citadel now. So you came here at the Thompsons' request, and you stayed with them for a while, and
Until I got married.
Yes, and St. John's Citadel was.
Well, the first Sunday I came to St. John's Citadel. I don't know if you know Margaret Pike and Ed Pike.
Yes.
Well, Margaret was the treasurer for the youth.
Yes.
So I came in through the door, and Margaret was there, and she said, "Come with me, Mita. You're going to help me with the treasurer work for the youth." So that was my introduction, the very first Sunday I was there.
Wow.
And I was with her for a while, and I was also the cradle roll sergeant for years. I helped out with the Sunday school.
Right.
I was in the songsters.
Yes. All
And
kinds
I
of
was of course, I'm in the women's ministries right now, and as
Right.
part of the committee.
Right. And Harry, you're part of pastoral care.
Yes, something that I'm enjoying, quite frankly. I like talking to people, and I thoroughly enjoy calling people on the phone and talking to them. And it's obvious that in some cases people would like to talk. In other cases they cut it really short. But for the most part, it's been a very wonderful experience, quite frankly.
That segues for me into the contact that we have with people through what you're doing now, or through what you're doing now, or through the years, what you have done. That contact is so critical to community and that sense of community. So let me ask you this. What is it? I mean, you've been here since 1970 now as a family, since moving back. What is it about the St. John's Citadel community of faith that has meant so much to you as individuals and then as a couple? Mita?
Well, it's what keeps us going. Without our church, I don't think our life could be as fulfilled.
Okay.
It's been, they've been there for us when bad times, good times, and thank God there hasn't been a lot of bad times.
No, that's right.
You know.
Yeah.
But it has been what kept us going, our faith.
Okay. Harry?
Well, you know, when I came back in 1970, I joined the Citadel Band. And I made friendship with a dozen, 15, 20 of the bandsmen. And they've become, of course, lifelong friends. Some, of course, have passed on, and
Yes.
others have moved away. But nevertheless, the nurturing that I received over the years that I was in the band, particularly, other activities, yes, but in the band particularly, and that has played itself in good stead, I think, over my lifetime, and it's been a good support.
Good. And so, you know, time has passed. You had children. You raised your family. Can you talk a little bit about faith through the parenting years? We all, those of us that are parents, we know that it comes with its challenges, right? So talk a little bit about that grounding you've just said you've received here in this community of faith. As you progressed then through those parenting years, what role did faith play for you? Mita, you want to start?
Well, we had 3 children.
Yes.
Stephen, he's an engineer working at Confederation Building now.
Yes.
And David he's had a lot of challenges with his health.
Yes.
And I listened to Dave Dawes' words with you, and I felt, I guess because of David's illness, that without faith, I don't know how people get along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that started even first when we had our children and we raised our children to believe. And we brought them to church to believe that life is nothing unless you have faith.
Yes. And you have a third child, right?
And we have a third child. We have Vanessa, a beautiful child she was. And she's a beautiful daughter. And she's so much like her father. And she inspires us every day, too. And she's not coming to this church, but she does go to a church.
Faith is faith.
And she's raising her child like we raised her,
Of course.
you know.
Of course. Harry?
And we're so grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I ditto what Mita said, but you know, I was blessed with good parents who taught me the morals, if you wish, that were important, who tried to teach me the scripture as well as they understood it. And then, of course, I grew up in the Botwood Core, where you had people like Roland Rose that you mentioned earlier, people like that who were, in my view, true Christians, and they were able to nurture me. And that has held firm over the years. And like Mita has pointed out, yeah, we have 3 children. David has had some health problems. We have now 5 grandchildren. And I strongly believe that our faith has enabled us to do what's right for our children. And now, of course, as much as we can for our grandchildren. So our faith is important, and it's just an integral part of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that we have necessarily learned. It's something that's a part of us. It's our being, actually.
Yeah.
So it's very important in anybody's life, in my view.
Yep.
But of course, I'm sure there are people who would feel that that's not the case.
And that's fair. And that's fair. So let's make it personal, because we know that in our tradition, faith is not granted you, you know, just because you're this family or that family. Faith is a personal decision. And so there comes a point in all of our lives where we, I guess, make that internal decision that we're going to follow this way. So how was that for both of you? I mean, was there a time when you recall that this was a turning point, or was there just an evolution of faith in your life as you moved through, or was there an event or a person perhaps who spoke deeply into your life as from a faith perspective? Who wants to start?
Well, I think for me, it was evolution, because I know no other way.
Okay.
And I grew up in Grand Bank, and I grew up across from the Citadel, where I didn't even go to church to hear it.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
So, because we were so close, and it was, I know no other way, and I feel this is the right way.
It's interesting you say it that way, and that really strikes me. I know no other way. You know, we've all perhaps at various times heard people talk about what they were saved from, right?
Yes.
But in your case, you didn't have to go through all of that.
No.
It was a gradual process of a deepening awareness of God in your life.
Yes, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's
Good.
it's a wonderful life.
And that's quite a testimony in itself, you know. Harry, how about you?
Well, likewise, I think, I mean, it was an evolution. There was no turning point. I recall the day that I got converted.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a little wee lad, and we were at the Citadel, which, as I say, was just a short distance from the school. And Colonel Shirley Rousel, whom we all know, she came and knelt down with me. Well, you know, that was the beginning. And it was just a natural evolution. I mean, part of the Sunday school, the Corps cadets, moved on, completed my higher grade Corps cadet set to St. John's Temple, and came up here in 70 to teach Corps cadets, to help out with the Corps cadets. And it was just a natural evolution. There was no point at which I said, I don't think this is right. I want to go a different direction. That never occurred to me. Obviously, still doesn't occur to me. But it was no turning point as such.
Good. So here we are at this stage of life. You know, the world of work is done. The raising of a family. You sit back now and enjoy the benefits of that in many respects. Worries are still there because kids are still your kids. And
Grandchildren.
Now you've added a layer of grandchildren and all of that stuff. I know you've had opportunity to do a bit of travel over the course of time and retirement. I know that that's been interrupted by COVID and all, like the rest of us have had those sorts of things to deal with. But let's talk about your current up-to-date faith journey. Now you're in retirement, and at this stage of life, what role is faith continuing to play? Because it, as you say, there was no turning point, there was no stark about face. It's just been a road that's opened up before you. So, but you're at a different stage of life now. How's faith playing a role for you now?
Well, you know, life is not without challenges now.
No.
In fact, sometimes I feel that the challenges are greater now
In some ways.
than when we were younger and working and so on. So the need, if you wish, for faith, our faith must be strong at this point. Now it's matured, of course, in our case, over 70 years.
Yeah.
So it's matured. And I think we can weather the storm at this particular point in our life. But we have our challenges in terms of our children and grandchildren. And we have concerns and so on. So that's a natural part of it. But my faith is strong, and Mita can speak for herself, but my faith is strong. And I prefer now to sort of take a lower profile in terms of the church activities. I was very heavily involved. In fact, I tell people often that back in the early 70s, I spent more time inside this other building, this other Citadel, than I did at work. There's no question there. And yet, of course, at this point, I prefer to keep a lower profile, but still have an interest, as I've indicated with the pastoral care, an interest in doing the kinds of things that's involved there, but not in a leadership position, if you wish.
Yeah.
That's where I stand on it at the moment.
Understood. Last word to you, ma'am.
Well, Harry has said it quite well. Our faith continues. And because of some struggles with health that our son David has had, and our other children, we try to keep that faith and hope that will rub off on them.
Yeah, planting seeds all the way.
Planting seeds.
Yeah, planting seeds all the way.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for your willingness to participate in Intersections. It can be a little daunting to come and have this kind of discussion, but I think it's so critical. Not just it's affirming your faith, but we never know what it's doing for those who are viewing, who may be having faith challenges, and they can look at the longevity of your faith and the maturing of your faith. And it is quite a testimony to God's grace and provision. And so I want to say thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
Thank you.